I would ask him how he had no fear to answer like that in the face of death.
There was no other way. He had to do so. Such action is worth a lot.
In fact, he had shown his brave soul. He had shown that he had no fear of them.
In fact, he became a hero for the whole Dagestan and maybe even for the whole country, because he could bravely and directly say to the criminals that they were not the masters of the situation nowadays, but those who lived on this land were the masters.
Amazing, fascinating region, unique and complex. There are about 100 nationalities living here on a small piece of land. These conditions have largely determined the history of Dagestan and the mentality of its population. Here, for centuries, there have been unspoken rules of respect for the traditions and customs of other people. The ability to live in friendship and peace. Here they love and know how to receive guests.
Actually, it's a good tradition of Caucasus, especially of Dagestan, when people around you which extended you a hand became more than friends.
Dagestan is a multinational and multi-religious mountainous republic. There are about 13 main nationalities here, and each has its own writing, language, press, TV, and newspapers.
There are 13 official languages in the Republic where not more than 2 million people are living. Constellation of Nations. This is how the great Dagestan poet Rasul Gamzatov said about his motherland, whose lines of Crane's poem became popular all over the world. On July 10, 2016, Police Lieutenant Magomed Nurbagandov heroically died in Dagestan. Being fearless of terrorists in the face of death, he made an appeal to all of his colleagues with the words that would soon become famous in the whole country: "Work, brothers." Here, in the motherland of Rasul Gamzatov, Magomed Nurbagandov had started his service on securing the Gotsatlinskaya hydroelectric power plant under construction.
We got acquainted during the service. We shared a common classroom where we had been learning legal articles while preparing for staff performance appraisal.
Magomed Makhmudov simply chose his profession. It's a tradition of all the men in his family to serve their motherland.
I can't say that I had a wish to serve in police since childhood, but when I had grown up and finished studies, I got it. My brother also serves in border guard. It's like a tradition for us. All family members always choose the same path.
During police workdays, it's easy to understand your colleague's character, as it can be said at once. It seems to be trifles, minor acts, but because of them, you will immediately understand if you can trust this person. Magomed Makhmudov has remembered one such case forever.
There is a checkpoint to the hydroelectric power plant. Initially, they had already started handing it over. One facility was being finished and another was being started, and the checkpoint was already ready for handing over, and the workers had been going through its turnstile equipped with the metal detector.
A security officer had to stand at the entrance. They kept the service in shifts, but suddenly, one of the officers refused to work in his turn.
And the other officer said, "There's radiation, I don't want to work there," meaning that it was not good for his health. Nurbagandov immediately said, "What radiation? Let me go there." And he went straight to that place.
In a year, the friends had finished their training. Magomed Nurbagandov found a new duty station closer to his family place. Thursday, June 9th, 2016 was a usual workday. But Magomed took a day off at work. His younger brother Arsen, a cadet of Police Academy, came from faraway Novosibirsk for a visit. They wanted to spend time together much. The whole family decided to go on nature.
That place is located in the outskirts of the village. In general, people usually go there with children for a walk, to play volleyball or soccer, to organize a picnic. The place itself was safe for that period of time.
Before that, or in 2015, they had already been there for holidays. And that's why in 2016 they were calm and relaxed.
In the evening after dinner, the whole company decided to go home. But Magomed and his brothers had taken a decision to stay in the tents for the night and to talk, because in that period they rarely spent time together.
I said nothing. At the end, though, especially my brother's wife was crying, "Let's go together, that's enough. Don't stay for night somewhere on your own." Kumsiar also told them. But she said, "Mom, let's go back later, maybe." That's how it was. Well, we just left them.
It would seem that what could pose a threat to strong men in 10 minutes walk far from home. The elder Magomed was a policeman. Abdurrashid was a master of sports in freestyle wrestling and Russian mixed martial arts champion. Arsen was a police academy cadet, special forces officer. The youngest brother was already 14.
Surprisingly, people say that a mother feels her children, but I had no bad feelings at all that night. After getting back home, we also went to bed late at night, but I felt absolutely nothing about it.
No one could imagine that night would overturn the destiny not only of the Nurbagandovs, it would resonate in the heart of all Dagestan, becoming a trigger that had put the end to terrorism in the Republic forever. Magomed Nurbagandov was born in a small district center of Sergokala. Once upon a time, the fortress of Deshlaga, with a garrison of 1,500 men, was located there as an outpost of Russian troops in the Caucasus. Today, almost nothing in Sergokala reminds of its militant history. It's a modern village with a population of 9,000 people, a school, a hospital, and gardens.
We are Dargins. It is the second largest nationality in our republic. The first are Avars, the second Dargins. Also, we are natives of the villages of Urahi, of Sergokalinsky district.
According to the old good tradition, physics teacher Nurbagand Nurbagandov was introduced to his future bride Kumsiat by his parents.
Our fathers had been always good friends since childhood. And so they introduced and brought us to each other for us to look and get to know each other better. And we agreed, gave the permission for marriage. And we have been already living together for 40 years.
3 children were born in their friendly family. The son Magomed was born in the end of Soviet period in 1985. Hard times were coming. The father of the family had to work much.
When he left home, they were sleeping. When he came home, they were sleeping. In the morning, I brought them to kindergarten. In the evening, took back home. They were asking all the time, where is the father? Is he absent again? Sometimes he hadn't seen them for 3 to 4 days.
Somehow, the tough father's character of Magomed could be seen even in the early childhood.
He was about 4 years. He had done something bad, and I wanted him to apologize. But as I have loud voice, he replied to me in the Dargin language. It sounded very nice. "Are you a screamer? Why are you shouting at me?"
Say in calm way and I will do it. But if you shout, I will neither do nor apologize anyway. We looked at each other with Nurbagan because we were surprised that our child had such character.
Everyone underlines that he was so skinny without huge muscles. Yes, that's why I always setting him as an example for my pupils. Muscles are not the indicator of strength. He had a strong spirit.
He really was not a Superman. The simplest guy, like many Dagestani boys, he was crazy about soccer.
He was so small, but he was so good at pulling up on the horizontal bar, and everybody took his example.
We lived next door. We met every day after lessons, played soccer, went to sports clubs together.
All the time, he said, even if it was like in the cities, he would go there, he wouldn't choose another profession.
But after school, he had to choose a completely different profession.
After graduating from secondary school with a gold medal, he said, well, I will be a lawyer here. And he had entered the university.
Because he believed that the law was the order, and that was the only way to get justice.
And there was a lot of injustice around. Magomed was growing up in the hardest years for the Republic.
You know, after the Soviet Union stopped its existence, various functionaries came into our republic, including representatives of international religious organizations. Our citizens started to travel abroad, much with some of them for studying in religious organizations. And not all of them had followed the aims of those religious organizations had. Part of them came under the influence of radical religious groups, recruitment, and so on. After returning to the territory of the Republic, they had started creating appropriate cells here, which were not traditional for our society.
The year 1992, after graduating from the higher police school, I had got a position of an ordinary operative of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Dagestan. Those years were very difficult for Dagestan and for Russia as a whole. Without exaggeration, we can say that Dagestan police officers had already been performing a heroic act by putting on the uniform and going to service. It was hard to distinguish between the enemy and the ally during this period.
Traffic police officers were being killed every day. Snipers just shot at them.
Those were shots around corners, shots to the back of the head. For example, I had lost my colleague who was killed by the shot to the back of the head. The man who was coming home to his family.
August 7th, 1999. The fighters of terrorists Katab and Shamil Basayev invade the territory of Dagestan. They are met not only by the law enforcement agencies, but also by ordinary citizens of Dagestan. Militias take up arms. They meet the Wahhabits with a readiness to die for their land. Fierce battles take place near the village of Botlik. There are hundreds of dead and wounded ruined villages. The terrorists have been finally driven out from the Republic only in 2 weeks of fighting. But the border is still open. The bandits strike fear and panic among the citizens of Dagestan, penetrating into the Republic through small but combat-ready groups. In 1999, Magomed was 14 years old. He already understands what's going on around him. There were no days without reports about explosions, murders, arsons. People were afraid to leave home, to let the children go for a walk. And at school, classmates had been whispering that one or other yesterday's graduate, who they knew well, left for the woods.
Somewhere, maybe in some moment, we missed our children. Because figuratively speaking, they had started to look into the woods. Many young people were leaving, dying.
Elias, he was such a good fellow, performed in comedy shows, so cheerful, so modern guy. I don't know why, but he had joined this community. Probably his relatives, cousins, or someone else drawn him into it.
Magomed, who used to act and think on his own, tried to open his peers' eyes, tried to convince them not to be recruited. But the boys who were playing soccer or performing in comedy shows with him the day before, they like hypnotized left for the woods and died. Magomed already knew that the terrorists sowed death and fear in his motherland.
He totally couldn't be tolerant to such people. He had very aggressive reaction when someone from here wanted to join those bearded men.
In 2009 at daytime, the Minister of Internal Affairs of Dagestan, Adilgire Magomed Tagirov, was shot dead from sniper rifle by insolent bandits in front of his colleagues. This was a challenge not only for the Republic, but for the whole Russia. At that difficult time, Lieutenant General of Police Abdurrashid Magomedov had been appointed to the post of Interior Minister of Dagestan. He knew his work properly, had been serving in the investigative authorities since 1986, and clearly understood what dangerous enemy they had faced.
2010, this was the peak year of underground groups' activities in the Republic. According to our data, operational data, and our colleagues from the Federal Security Service data, there were up to 300 armed bandits located in the woods and cities at one time. And we ran into the fact that we lost 103 law enforcement officials in 2010 alone.
A double terrorist attack was carried out in the outskirts of Makhachkala last night. The first car bombing was a bait. People gather at the place. Firefighters and policemen began to help the injured. At that time, there was a second explosion. The Gazelle exploded near a crowd.
Can you imagine? They wanted to break the spirit of policemen, the spirit of Dagestan people, the spirit of Russia. But no, person like Magomed Nurmagomedov showed. Work, guys.
The morning of July 10th, 2016 had brought a great tragedy into the Sogokala village.
It was about 10 minutes after 4 a.m. when a boy ran into and started to knock on the door. I had opened the door and saw him crying. He told me that his brother had been killed. Who killed the brother? He replied, bearded men. I immediately drove straight there. It took me for about 5 minutes to get there. But there were nobody there yet. I had just found Abdurrashid near the 10. But Magomed and Arsen, my second son, they were not there. I asked my other son, where are your brothers? He answered, I don't know. I guess they were kidnapped, maybe. I don't know. I can't count the exact time. In 5 or 10 minutes, we had heard the noise from the wood thicket, and I had seen my son coming and carrying Magomed on his shoulder from the wood.
About Magomed's death, I found out during my vacation. My cousin called me in the morning while I was running. It was about 7 in the morning. He said, do you already know that Magomed and Abdurrashid were killed? I was so shocked. And later, I found out all those horrible details of that case.
5 militants attacked the Nurmagomedov brothers while they were sleeping. They tied up the sleeping men, had checked all their belongings, and found Magomed's police ID. The bandits probably made their plan on the spot. They wanted to create moral terror and intimidate the local police. After graduation from the law faculty, Magomed wanted to become a judge, but he hadn't found a job suited to his specialty. Shortly before his death, he took an oath and joined the internal affairs agencies.
How so? I thought you didn't want to do that. Well, and what? He said someone should work. We must get rid of this evil.
Hello? How are you doing?
Zaur Omarov, a colonel of police and the chief of the non-departmental security unit in Kaspisk, was pleased when he saw Magomed Nurmagomedov among the personnel. They were from the same district and knew each other from childhood.
He was even more than positive. But of course, he was able to use firearms because each police officer must know how to use firearms, the legal rules and norms regulating this process, safety measures, and so on.
Once his sister Irina, my elder daughter, said, Magomed, don't wear uniform. When you walk the street in such way, I worry much. Don't walk wearing it. He answered, what, sister? Do you really think that I will take it off now because of those bastards? At work I wear uniform and in the streets I should take it off, right? Don't expect such from me. A man can die but once.
The work of the young lieutenant was not connected with combat service. He didn't go for operational missions, did not eliminate bandits. He was engaged in checking the accuracy of drafting legal acts. In the evening, he hurried to his family, a young wife and 2 young kids. And on weekends, he went to his native Sergokala to visit his parents and cousins whom he loved very much.
He was always the elder one for them. His word was a law for them. Everything he said was done unconditionally. That was their attitude to him.
He had 4 cousins, and he was an example to them. He had such a high level in their eyes. They called him Utsi, not Maga. Utsi means brother.
July 10th, 2016. His brother Abdurrashid Nurmagomedov was the first to die. He was the strongest one and desperately threw himself on the bandits having his hands tied. The armed bastards began pressing Magomed to tell all policemen on camera the words, "Drop your weapons, no one dares to oppose the masters of the woods." But the terrorists weren't able to break the spirit of Magomed Nurmagomedov. The hero chose death over betrayal. Arsen survived by a miracle.
If they had known he was a military man, they would have never left him. It was just a miracle that they couldn't unlock his phone, so they kept him alive. And they said, get your brother and go tell them that we did it.
In a few days, the responsibility for the deaths of the Nurmagomedov brothers was taken by the terrorist organization Islamic State, forbidden in Russia. And the bandits called themselves its recruits. They posted a video of the massacre on the social network, providing it with mocking comments. Allegedly, a policeman begged, pleaded for his life.
Literally, maybe a week or 3 or 4 days passed. I can't say for sure now. And they put it on their channels. But I haven't seen this one and I am not able to watch it and I don't want to.
I said I would never believe in it. I knew my son, what he would have said, what he would have done, never. Even if the whole world would say so, I won't believe in it.
But the bandits' version of Magomed's death didn't last long in the social networks. Within a week, police forces and Federal Security Service had already figured out the terrorists. Some were killed in the shootout, 2 were taken alive.
And this phone was found in one of those men's pockets and it was sent straight to the Minister of Internal Affairs.
I had got a call from our Special Police Forces commander, and he said that in the suspect's pocket he had found this phone, which was used initially for recording everything what happened on July 10th in its entirety. And he was emotionally explaining it. I said, that's it, come over, I'll watch it. And, well, of course, it was a shock.
Caught a Kafir officer, Junior Police Lieutenant Magomed Nurmagomedov. This is you, isn't it?
Yes, this is me.
That's it. Tell them, tell the officers.
Tell them what?
Tell them not to work.
Work, brothers. That's it. What should I say?
At first I thought about how I would act in such situation, how I would behave myself. Because his killed brother was lying next to him. And he was told, give up. And he understood that he would be killed if he didn't seek the ways to improve Bandit's attitude toward him. And finally, he said these two words, which in fact could be said only by a heroic man.
It was definitely hard to watch, but the fact that on pain of death this man uttered those words, had no fear, made an appeal, made him a hero for almost all of the officers, because we never know how any one of us would act on pain of death, and he behaved in this way.
Probably it's a true understanding of the sense of brotherhood and alliance, not only to those who are brothers and relatives by blood, but also to those who are close to you, to whom you trust.
We don't know ourselves how we would act. At first I even thought, if only you, Magomed, had asked them for, if only you had told them you had children. But why didn't you?
Those people who stood in front of him behind the scenes, he had just not considered them to be equal to himself. That's my opinion. That's why he said that. That's why he couldn't demean himself next to them.
Minister Magomedov immediately transmitted the video from the phone to the presidential administration. The reaction had followed instantly. Soon, the grief-stricken parents got a phone call with the invitation to come to Moscow.
It was said, you will be handed the title of hero during the meeting with the president. And so we went there. And of course, the meeting was very impressive.
I am talking about Magomed Nurmagomedov, a police lieutenant from Dagestan who was posthumously awarded the Star of the Hero of the Russian Federation. His parents are here today.
By his warm and sensual attitude towards us, Vladimir Vladimirovich had inspired and encouraged us. And as they say, he gave us the meaning of life, the feeling that we must keep on living, that we are still needed. You have also grandchildren, children. You should work and to keep memories.
When he was a little one during the elementary school, at the 2nd or 3rd grade, he was a strong rowdy. I was always afraid for him. I used to scold him for that. Why don't you stop it? And then after he proceeded to 5th grade, he had changed completely. He had drawn this himself in the 2nd grade. Also, he made a sign here. My dear Mom, I congratulate you with the holiday of the 8th of March. I wish you all the best, the health, happiness, and that tears would never come to your eyes. If you are happy, then I'm glad. If you are upset, then I feel the same. So be happy, my mother. Your son Nurmagomedov Magomed Nurmagomedovich. He had also put his signature there.
Magomed's children and wife live in the Nurmagomedov's house today. The elder one was named after his grandpa, Nurmagomed. It's a family tradition. 5 generations of firstborns have already been named after their grandfathers, either Magomed or Nurmagomed.
The boy understands, he knows him, he hasn't forgotten about his dad. And the girl was still little, in the age of 3 years, she doesn't remember him much. But Nurmagomed remembers him well. I just tell them what he was like when he was little, what he did, what he was like, how he studied. I give them all these examples. Your dad did this, did that, you also do like him.
In 2021, Nurmagomed Nurmagomedov, the hero's father, was elected deputy of the State Duma. Nowadays, he ex officio often visits Moscow. He works a lot. He must help so many people, so many instructions to carry out.
When I'm here and not left for Moscow, I used to visit his grave every day. Especially when such issues are raised in connection with the upbringing of grandchildren, with being offered a job. I believe that is led by him or All what I do, it is given from somewhere that had not fallen from anywhere. So it is from above. This is He showing me the way. So I do it all.
6 years has passed. I haven't seen him in any dream. Can you imagine? Other people see that. Everyone tells me that they saw him in one or another way. I can hear him speaking somewhere far away. I hear his voice. I hear his laughter, but I can't see his face like that.
A street in Sergokala and the school where he studied and where his grandfather and his father worked are named after Magomed Nurmagomedov, a hero of Russia.
On my way home from work, if I see his monument, I can't believe in it. We had been studying together. He is my classmate, as if, I don't know, I can't accept it.
Every teacher has a dream to have such pupil in his biography, and I had him. And all the time I repeat that he was always a hero for me. Even though this tragedy wouldn't happen, he was that person I was proud of, setting him as an example to all of my pupils.
We couldn't believe in that for a long time. Although so many years have passed, telling the truth, it seems that he is somewhere.
And the fact that he had passed away so heroic, probably that was his mission on this earth, to lead the next generations as a flagship, as a fire they need to follow.
On that day, when we came to film the school named after Nurmagomedov, it turned out that the teachers had decided to conduct a big lesson of biology directly outdoors. Maybe such confidence in their children's safety is the biggest award to our hero.
I've been waiting for this camping trip for a long time. It's very nice and joyfully to be here with the entire school. We are protected by our police. We are protected by the likes of Magomed Nurmagomedov. So I'm confident in my protection.
I'm going to enter a university and continue my education. I want to graduate from it with honors, to become a good doctor.
I've already decided on a college and a university, and I want to graduate with an honors degree and to find a good job.
I planned to get law degree, and then we will see how it goes.
I want to get the specialty of an architect. I will enter educational institution in Makhachkala.
I want people to be healthy and also to help them in difficult moments of their life.
He urged us to work, brothers. We made it a rule and work. I'm not saying that we've solved the problem totally, but we eliminated the active bandit underground in the Republic. There are still a lot of tasks to be solved.
On May 9, 2017, a joint decision was made by the leadership of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Republic, headed by the Minister of Internal Affairs, Abdurrashid Magomedovich Magomedov, to plant in the medical and sanitary unit special trees with name plaques in honor of the deceased officers of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, heroes of Russia.
We are in the Museum of History of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Republic of Dagestan. Our museum was opened on May 18, 2004. The founders of the museum are the Minister of Internal Affairs of the Republic of Dagestan, Magomed Tagirov Adilgerey Magomedovich, killed by the hands of an armed criminal, and his assistant Murad Muradkhanov. Thus, the first exposition I would like to draw your attention to is the stand with our heroes.
Here is a memorial built in honor of deceased law enforcement officials in the history of the Dagestan Ministry of Internal Affairs. There are the heroes of Russia portrayed on this memorial plate here. 16 heroes of Russia served in the Republic Ministry of Internal Affairs. Unfortunately, 13 of them were awarded posthumously, including Lieutenant of Police Magomed Nurbagandov.
Work, brothers. This simple but incredibly powerful phrase has become a passkey not only among law enforcement officers, but also among military personnel, SQers, and even doctors, everywhere we're talking about service and dedication.
I discovered once I have seen a police car and the words, "Work, brothers, working brother," said from there.
I'll tell you more. This motto, "Work, brothers," is the story that goes further today. While being in Syria, I watched the movement of a column of our troops and our equipment on the plate frames where the license plates are supposed to be set. There was a rectangular plate with the sign, "Work, brother." Because the events in Syria meant to be a continuation of the fight against terrorist organizations, which even from that territory potentially posed a threat to our country. And so our guys there, not by command, not by any binding instructions, had just responded to the call of 2016, and by their actions they said, "We keep working here too, brother, and we won't allow such abomination to infiltrate Russia."
We haven't organized all this stuff yet. We are going to create a separate room for the museum, and so this is where, can be said, the most valuable things are collected. Here is Magomed's star, which was handed.
Many people, especially the young generation, responded to the heroic deed of Magomed Nurbagandov by heart. They write poems, draw pictures, write songs. They all want to be like their brother.
I would like to repeat the phrase of the hero of Russia, Magomed Nurbagandov, and to turn to our colleagues, policemen, not only Dagestan policemen, but to all our policemen, our colleagues, our brothers, and say, "Work, brothers." We still have a lot of problems to solve in order to ensure security, peace, and stability in our country.
Work, brothers.
Work, brothers. Work, brothers.
Офицерская честь и верность присяге. Лейтенант Нурбагандов за нас жизнь отдал. В сердце Россия, в сердце отвага. Работайте, братья, он смело сказал. Работайте, братья, глаза как живой. Сын Дагестана, России герой. Кавказские горы скорбно молчат. Работайте, братья, работаем, брат.